Welcome back, everyone, to round five this time for real of your Canadian regional. We're joined by Barrett Bryant and his wonderful pet companion this time. Got a little cat action. You love to see it. Barrett, we've got a very interesting, a heartwarming, if you will, a feels good matchup here at table 11. Both players fighting for the rest of their tournament life. We've got Paul Phoenix versus Mirio. This one looks like it's going to be two guys putting up their dukes and kind of punching it out.
I think I was going to say the exact same thing because I think at the beginning of the day when we were kind of going more so on the character breakdown, like Paul Phoenix was represented on the pie chart, on this, representation that out of the 7 that get to be there, of course. Mirio not being on the representation, but I think the kind of deck that Mirio embodies is represented kind of in the same boat that this Paul Phoenix is going to be in, right? Like the way that we've seen Mirio have success in the past during like undaunted raid formats and such like that. We know that the cards that he plays in his deck are really good, but we just haven't seen him have a bunch of success recently. But as I said, 6 hand size, sort of like more mid-rangey, turn 3 win, maybe a turn 4 win, like real 6 handers slobber knockering against each other. That's literally the name of this match, right? We have Paul Phoenix versus Mirio, a character on the chart versus a character we haven't seen in quite a long time. And I'm kind of excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, I really want to see what adaptations this Mirio deck can have. I think the biggest thing is to remember Mirio is not just a punch deck. There's a punch or slam character, and Godzilla has some pretty good slams. There's cards that give you check bonuses to all your slams. We've got cards that build a slam down, which could be really, really potent when combined with the City Rampage that we see. But Paul Phoenix going to get us started with a Tavern Brawl.
Yeah, big fan of Tavern Brawl, and I think when we start to see some of the other cards that are also being played in this deck, we're going to see exactly why we're playing this one. But of course, we're going to blitz, reveal the top 3 cards that we're doing right now. For each attack revealed, we can freeze a rival foundation. Of course, it's not committed right now, but if we do commit it, it still will be frozen. And then for any non-attack revealed, this will get +1 speed, and then you put them back on the bottom of your deck in a random order. So we're doing that right now. 2 speed, and we're going to freeze that Lemillion of the big 3, which is a high impact unique foundation that it's a lot of extra stats for the Mirio decks.
Yep, and Paul Phoenix has some pretty good ways to find that card committed. It's not committed yet, but we're going to discard a card. It's a Feral Shriek, so we're going to get to draw a card, which is absolutely huge for this character. And now we're going to get Stun 2.
Yeah, being able to turn the cards in your hand as, hey, I don't need this one, or especially this one is going to give me an extra bonus card and recycle itself essentially because we have access to that fire attune symbol. And now we get this extra added benefit of committing 2 of our rivals' foundations. If we play another attack right here, we could do the same exact idea of giving it stun 2 and committing down that Lemillion of Big 3, making this freeze ability of the Tavern Brawl go a long way. And here's another synergistic piece with the Tavern Brawl. Patchwork Baby, which gets extra damage based off of unique keywords in the card pool. Tavern Brawl, Sam, has 6 keywords on it.
Yeah, that is about as many keywords as you can get. I would dare say that that is a record number of keywords. Any UVS Ultra nerds in the chat can fact check me on that one. But if I had to assume, if I had to guess, 6 is the most I can remember. And that stun 2 native means we're not going to have to discard a card from hand. We're going to stun out the rest of our rivals' foundations. One of them is, of course, that Lemillion of the Big 3. It's going to stay frozen, and now it's just going to be about how much damage can we pump into this attack. But this is not one of the Paul Phoenix keywords to get the additional bonus.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't like gain any of these extra keywords, of course. It does get quite a bit of damage again because of the keywords, but because that it itself is not one of the ones for that impactful once per turn, which would give us an extra 4 because our opponent has 4 committed foundations in their stage. And remember, and we kind of glossed over it a little bit as we're kind of just talking about the cards. we did check a 3 on this, so we did commit all of our own foundations to pass this check. So I can only imagine this is the last one, but a big impactful hit off of these 2 moves, knocking Mirio all the way down to 12. And this is kind of the benefit of going first here. Again, big, heavy haymakers against each other because once Mirio starts to get some momentum, we have to talk about that other ability on the character, right? Being able to commit and spend that momentum to basically reset an attack all the way down to 1, right? Now having gone down to 12, that's going to be super important if we don't have access to that ability if we don't get momentum on the board.
Yeah, Mirio does put it to 0,
Oh,
small
0.
distinction. Yeah, it doesn't matter too much, but that is going to be very interesting footsies that you'll probably have to play once Mirio gets momentum, and his ability to change his zone makes it very easy for him to get momentum. We do see an extra card draw before we draw up to our hand size. Now the horrifying realization going to, of course, get rid of that duplicate unique foundation that's not going to help us. And now we get the Phantom Threat, which is so wonderful because we talked about how important momentum is. This one says if you change the zone of the attack, you can enhance to add it to your momentum after it resolves, which guarantees us a momentum. But we can't add any more cards to our momentum during the combat phase for the rest of the turn. So it's going to be a little sketchy. We're not going to be ramping too much on the momentum side, but getting that card pool cleared is a great way to start things off.
Yeah, I mean, last time I've seen this card, at least in recent history, Sam, is I forget that this is a Mirio card because it's got its face on it. This is a Midoriya on the move card, in my opinion. But using that other accessible ability because we have the zone change, making it be able to leave immediately out of here because of uh, adding it as after it resolves. And also remember, we started this turn off using the ability of a short-lived promotion. So we're actually not even really a six-hander this turn. We have that extra benefit on top of the horrifying that you mentioned already, getting rid of that unique card that we can't really use. But there it goes, sneaking away, knocking Paul Phoenix all the way down to 22, and a very clear card pool here. And again, it could have been even more lethal if we did have access to Lemillion of the Big Three Foundation. But the freeze being pretty impactful here for Paul Phoenix, having not a lot of defense of their own right now. And so the question is, how much more do we have from the tank of Mirio?
Yeah, we're getting a little peek at the hand of Mirio. It's not looking great, but you want to talk about the damage pump from Lemillion of the Big Three. 3 enhances we could have played during this Armor of the Wolf. That's 3 opportunities for our rival to pass enhance, and 3 damage that's effectively going to be knocked off of this attack.
Yeah, and we are also pointing this out. I love that Alessandro immediately goes for this. You're allowed to pay the cost of any enhances as long as you can fulfill everything before the colon. Even if you don't get the effect of the card, such as capture the target, you are allowed to press the button to deny an extra damage of these Armor of the Wolves, depending on how many enhancers there are. So I love the idea of immediately looking at that one. But that is our only playable enhance right here. So any extra buttons that we press, as we have a momentum, of course, we can press either powerful or EX. I can only imagine it was going for the powerful, as our rival is pretty committed out, except for these 2 foundations. Just trying to cash in as much damage in the same idea of how Paul domed us all the way down to 12 on turn 2.
Yeah, guaranteeing that this 8 damage deals instead of risking it to try and get to 11 damage is something I like a lot here. Not blocking the first attack can be a little bit of bait against Mirio players because it's pretty common that you jump on any block zone that you are legally allowed to play, right? If you have the right zone, it's pretty common to immediately just, mentally you're checked in and you're like, okay, I'm going to block the first thing that matches a zone. So not falling for a potential bait, right? To say that the zone is automatically secure. But now we're gonna have to build out. We only have 12 health, and Paul is gonna be able to stun out this stage very easily.
Yes, going into 6 ready foundations, none of which are really defensive abilities. They're very easy. I mean, that's 3 attacks as Paul Phoenix, not including any attacks that inherently have stun, like that Patchwork Baby that we saw last turn. But that momentum, I think, is the big key, right? You aren't allowed to just like willy nilly press the once per turn ability of Paul Phoenix for that bunch of big extra damage because we do have a reset available unless you have a way to deny momentum from your rival or play around it by holding on to a powerful enhance. But kicking things off here with Pale Rider.
No, no, this is
Oh,
Rising
oh,
Uppercut.
we're just opening with the Rising Uppercut. Yeah, we kind of talked about it a little off stream here. Um, Rising Uppercut's block trick ability, not exactly the best against the character that says I can make everything a low zone, right?
Yeah, I think James heard that high attacks were illegal, and he said, "You got it, boss. I'll play the character that makes all of my attacks low." So Rising Uppercut, usually one you would save the play on your rival's turn, but unless James is feeling real froggy, I doubt there's going to be any high attacks coming his way anytime soon.
Yeah, and at least, offensively, I mean, even though you don't get the cool block trick of the Rising Uppercut in this matchup, it's still an orange card. You're allowed to play it. It still functions as an enhanced step for us to discard a card with Paul Phoenix and maybe
Ooh.
get some cards committed down. But it looks like it's just going to go in easily for 4. And here is, I was jumping the gun. It's my own fault. Another card with Luke's face on it. Pale Rider, a very impactful Echo attack that has the ability to pay for its Echo ability. If you pay the drive cost, you can kick an attack out of your card pool instead of paying for the momentum, which if you got it at Foundations, you pay the drive cost through your Foundations. And if you were going to use the Echo anyway and you just have a momentum, save yourself the Ready Foundations, but get a card pool clear while you're at it.
Yeah, it's very funny because this one it's kind of like you have to pay the drive cost to be allowed to do the benefit of the Vexalia attack, Storm of Arrows, but this one clears any attack. It's way less restrictive. So if you have any kind of attack lineup, Pale Rider can fit into it, and you can get card pool clearing going for symbols that might not really have any other card pool clearing. So this is a long line of effects that I like to call rain flushers. We used to have a rain flush style effect, which it probably wasn't the first, but it's the first one that I knew about. And I'll tell you what, rain flush back in the day used to bother me so much. Turning one attack into an additional attack, moving it, discarding it from the card pool to pay the cost was so frustrating. And you can see now Mirio committed out down to 5 health, pretty much going to be forced to use that enhanced commit, spend that momentum on the next attack that gets played. But guess what we have in our stage if we're Paul Phoenix?
Sacrifice for the cause, exactly. The greatest thing about this foundation is not only does it provide extra damage pump if you do choose to let the damage reduction ability go through Mirio, but it also just has an ability to cancel the damage reduction ability. And Sam, boy howdy, this card doesn't say non-character effect. So you can press the button all you want, but you have a no button, and you probably just still have enough gas from your own character and the ability to discard another card for extra stuff. So that's going to be game 1, going down to Paul Phoenix pretty easily on turn 3.
Yeah, absolutely. Full checkmate, full stop, no real counterplay. We had the once per turn damage pump to put it back to lethal. We had the sacrifice for the cause to cancel the damage reduction. And sacrifice for the cause could have discarded a crazy block modifier to get us pretty close too. So these are two aggressive decks, two six-handers swinging it out. Throw in, haymakers, right? We had Phantom Threat for 7 or 8. We had the Armor of the Wolf for 8. We had Patchwork Baby for way too much, way too much on the Patchwork Baby. So it's going to be about blocking that first attack. I think that's going to be what comes up the most in this matchup is having the right block zone against Mirio, blocking whatever you can, whatever he gives you the opportunity to, because you're most likely are going to hold more than one block zone, and then you're only going to get that one complete block. So is the first complete block you can get is going to matter a lot, and blocking Paul's attacks before he commits you out is going to be really important, right? So playing that heads up defense, getting on top of things early in the turn before you get committed out, I think is going to be key for both of these players. But now Mirio gets to go first, and Mirio is one of the better aggressive decks. One of the better aggressive characters we've really seen printed in the MH since the MHA reboot.
Yeah, I mean, this character, you ready? I'm going to compare a character like Mirio in the same kind of vein on the popularity for this character and the kind of way you play the game, like Godzilla. Like they're different
The
time
original.
frames. Yeah, right. But like the idea is like I'm a pretty straightforward deck to play. I got some keyword restrictions. If you're Godzilla, you got some difficulty restrictions on your attack cards. But the idea is you play generic UniVersus quite well by giving some stats, doing a little bit of mix up for your opponent, and then having one high impact other ability on your character. Godzilla's is a board reset, obviously, and also the spending momentum for plus your checks, whereas Mirio's is a very high impact damage reduction ability. But as we've already seen in the matchup, there's cards that you have to fight against in the Paul Phoenix list that it's kind of like an uphill battle. And just like you said, Sam, like I kind of think this is in a favor of Paul Phoenix because like we saw last game, if James had like one more attack, I think we maybe could have gotten there depending on what it was. But I mean, at the end of the day, these are both six handers. And sometimes you just start your turn with two attacks, and that's not going to be enough for either of these players to chew through 28 or 29 life. So yes, it's great that Mirio gets to go first here, but I'm thinking all the way ahead. Even if Mirio, does the same story, we go to turn 3 after a great poke on turn 2, more Phantom Threads, playing Armor of the Wolf with some momentum. It's like really kind of just spelling things out. I'm looking ahead to game 3, and I still just see the advantage going back to Alessandro on Paul Phoenix because it's not just the same kind of damage output that Mirio can do, but it's the board committal as well, making the defensive decisions a lot easier for Paul because you're not having to worry about stun. You just need the right block zones.
Yeah, I think if that Lemillion of the big three was ready, right,
Yeah.
that would have accounted for a lot more damage on the armor of the wolf. It would have added one more damage to the phantom threat. That would have put our rival, from 14 down to 10, down to 9 maybe, if I'm getting the math right. And especially if we had like full belief, full faith, and spent the momentum on powerful instead of EX, and just, found the right zone check, that absolutely could have been a 3 attack kill string for Mirio in that last game after Paul, potentially overextended. But that's not how it went. Paul won game 1, and now only a 3 build from Mirio in game 2 is not looking good. One bad check on turn 2 can put a huge halt in the early aggression that you want to see from the Mirio deck. So military airship coming down, that could be hugely impactful in these in this game 2 matchup going second, because if Mirio can't be aggressive against you and you get a good build here, I don't know if we're going to get 4 or 5 or what, but if we get a solid build, check a 6, commit Paul, it seems good to me. I imagine Mirio's probably going to build and pass.
Yeah, I think there's a world where we attempt, one meaningful poke if it was something like a phantom thread. But as we draw up here, we don't even have like a ton of foundations per se to like make something impactful. But we're gonna go for it with a gigantification swing, and
Oh,
you called it like it was written in the script. They checked a 3. We're having to commit all but one of our foundations here, and there's not even like a real guarantee that this attack connects, right? Like starts as a mid. Mirio will mix it up. The response on play for -2 to the check to for Paul's next card is meaningful because his character Mirio doesn't give speed, so it's essentially a 6 something, right? But this is still pretty blockable when you look at 4 ready foundations. But it looks like it did connect. The poke is gonna pay off, but I can only imagine we're done after this, just like you said, Sam.
yeah, luckily no sacrifice for the cause out yet, but I really would have liked to see that gigantification swing act as a breaker 2 block on Paul's next turn, because we've seen that, he's willing to play the rising uppercuts on his own turn. That's
Yeah.
something that we have to assume that we're going to be playing around anyways, right? So we know high attacks exist. We probably could have sent any move potentially, for the right zone check to get a momentum. But now we've got Attack Titan's Haymaker coming down. This one natively has stun 2. Paul's going to give it another stun 2, and the steel muscle explosion. We're going to clown on our opponent a bit and draw some cards similar to the Feral Shriek. And now you're completely committed out. You've just got the one reduced damage to 0 effect. Luckily, no speed pump on Paul's side, so maybe a +1 block mod gets us there.
Loving the steel muscle explosion here. I loved your clowning around, Joe. I really appreciated it. But yeah, I mean, the fact that it's another bonus here, and like you said, I mean, I think it really didn't matter what this lead-in attack was, Sam. But the fact that it is another attack in this deck that inherently has stun 2 on it, and because it does have one of the keywords that Paul is looking for, we could immediately press the once per turn to try and bait out that momentum damage reduction ability right off the bat, but we're gonna let it go for now. And like you said, the discard for giving an extra stun 2 didn't even feel like a problem because it was an extra redraw. We're also seeing another crazy card that I really don't see anybody talking about at all. This is we just use the ability of down not out, which is a Attack on Titan fire attuned unique foundation that says response destroy after an attack deals damage, draw 2 more cards, Sam. And it looks like it gave us something like, I don't know, the card that helped us win the game last time, Pale Rider.
Yeah, this is one I waffle on a lot. I feel like more experienced players would love this card because they see all the opportunities, where because it's an attack. It's not even your attack, right? It's
Yeah.
an attack. And destroy a foundation to draw 2 cards with no momentum cost is pretty stellar. But the fact that it's unique and the top enhance only sometimes coming into play, I think towards a lot of people, myself including off, we think of cards as how often can I use all the abilities on it? And Paul is almost never going to have more committed foundations than his rival, right? But getting to draw 2 cards in a deck that is discarding cards constantly makes perfect sense. And you know what else makes sense? If your rival puts your attack down to 0, just pick it back up.
Yeah, we checked to 3 on that Pale Rider, which means that we don't get to pay the drive cost, right? You know, we have tapped out all of our foundations just to pass the card. Now we've entered the opportunity to pay the drive cost. We don't have a momentum, but instead we got the momentum out of your rival and the Mirio's ability to commit and set its damage down to 0. Great use of the military airship here because you're not echoing it. It's just kind of now it feels like a waste, but getting that refund and then also clearing your card pool a little better to build some more foundations, including another secret rare backup has hit the board. And we get to talk about a new one that at least I haven't been able to talk about yet today, Scumbug Inscrutable Insect. And we've been talking about all the damage output that Paul Phoenix can do, but now that we've built a Scumbug, we can also look at our checks and make sure that we're checking well too.
Yeah, I was gonna talk about how similar these 2 decks are. Trying to be aggressive early, checking poorly early, potentially tripping over themselves. But Scumbug is going to be huge at preventing that because it's one thing to look at the top card of your deck and know what you're going to check, but because he also has the option to mill it off the top of your deck or your rivals, you only get to pick one per enhance though.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can move that card with the same effect is absolutely huge. So dodging a bad check here or there, finding a card you'd rather draw, instead of check is absolutely gonna be massive if Barrett Bryant we get another turn, and that is not guaranteed.
But I mean, as I'm blanking on player names, was James is trying to make sure that that Alessandro doesn't get another turn. We just double horrifying realization. Use the text on the foundations in our
Whoa.
stage. We are looking for gas. We are trying to push for this, but of course, Alessandro is just going to pitch. Oh, I don't need this rising uppercut. I'm never playing that card, right? And then we pitch a cute host Kodo, which we're not using right now, but kicking things off with repel strike for the Mirio deck. Another 5 difficulty attack that comes in that deck for Mirio. But checking another 3, Sam, it's just very quickly becoming an idea of how much more risk can I get for this reward of if you pass back to Paul now with a Scumbug to kind of maybe make sure those checks look really good, it it could be a disaster. And now this 3 check is really scaring you if you want to continue.
I was gonna say getting rid of the low block that doesn't count towards progressive is kind of insane.
Mhm.
However, this attack is almost certainly just going to commit us out, and then it's not really gonna matter what we block with, especially if it's a +2 block mod. So Repel Strike is one of the cards that didn't make it into early Mirio lists. The
Yep.
stun and wanting to commit your own foundations was not seen as very important. So I'm very curious if this is here because it's a deadlock threat. After it resolves, you build it face down is a really, really strong deadlock threat, or if we are just valuing the ability to commit our rival out as much as possible.
Wow. And while we were talking, you were talking about exactly the reason why we didn't see this card very much, and I think it being a very good inclusion, especially right now, as now Paul is completely tapped out. We saw the other side of the coin that we didn't really talk about with the scumbug. We didn't look at the top card of our deck, Paul or Sam, because we're tapped out. I'm not passing a check anyway for a block, but we
Right.
looked at Mirio's top card of their deck, saw a 6 check, and said, "Absolutely not. Put that in your discard pile," which then made this new check even scarier. But we did check a 5 on this schoolyard smackdown, which is going to grease up our card pool a little bit. Things are looking up now with that 5 check, getting this extra clear of a card out. And it zone changes to what the zone of the repel strike was. And then it still leaves the zone mix up that you're allowed to do with Mirio. All of a sudden, Schoolyard Smackdown gets a lot of stats really fast.
Comes another six off the top. Oh my goodness. If he checks a three after this is the scummiest backup I've ever seen.
Nice. I see what, man. You're on top of it today, Sam. Scummiest scumbug enhance I've ever seen in an entire matchup, and really
Back
kind of
to back
showcasing the
sixes.
backup.
Yeah, we get this one up to 9 damage though. Lots of synergies coming in. Ferocious attacker chewing things up. We've got a rival down to 4. It's simply check a 5 and win the game. You gotta go for it. Even through the scumbug, it's not gonna matter because we've got armor of the wolf. He's debating on the zone change or the +1/+1. What do you pick? Do you pick the speed or the zone here?
Zone for sure. Or no, that's wrong. I think it's the 1/1. We are staring across Paul Phoenix still being up. This is a scenario where now,
I pick the zone change, if only
really,
because it's lethal on a partial.
that is a very fair decision. I mean, I think it's a 50-50. I think either of these could be correct. Looks like
Oh
we're
wait,
going with mine, Sam.
wait,
So
he has to pass at least once, so it's lethal on a partial either way. You take the speed.
okay, for them, perfect. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. We're gonna blow up a foundation. We don't need those where we're going anyway because we're hoping this goes to a game 3. Yes, there has to be at least one pass enhance coming from Paul at some point. We chose our opponent's deck once again. We're keeping it on top, posturing that it's a bad check, but you have to block this. James, you or Alessandro, you are the one that must live here, or we go to a game 3. This is exactly what we asked for here, Sam, on getting ourselves to a game 3. Going for the block, 6
You have a
speed.
+0. Oh, we could check a 6 ourselves. We
But
do not.
there's the 3, and that's going to be game 2 going to James, which means we've got ourselves a match, Sam. We're taking it all the way to game 3, and this is exactly what we talked about. These two 6 hand-sized characters really dishing out the damage against each other. All gas, no brakes.
Yeah, I feel like if there was an alternate universe where Mirio is printed today, potentially perhaps he could have the brawler trait as well because this is exactly his kind of style, mixing it up, getting in there, getting down and dirty, playing lots of 5 diffs, committing your whole stage. It's looking like 2023 all over again. We were chewing up our stage for +1/+1s everywhere. We were changing the zone. Nobody's blocking anything. Everyone's committing on their own turn.
What a crazy event this is, Sam, while our players sideboard and shuffle. I just want to talk about it. Like, we really have gone down memory lane today. Like, we're talking about Mirio right now. Paul Phoenix, not only having a top cut already within the past 2 weeks, but having another strong showing here in round 5 on their way to potentially making another top cut on another event. But we had an overhaul earlier on today, and now we have a Mirio happening right now from strong, real competitive UniVersus players, and they are showing why they chose this character and the strength that they can do playing just, I don't know how else to describe it, some real simple but also strategic UniVersus. Mirio isn't a bad character. You literally were talking to me off the air before we got into this match that you were just looking at this character.
True. I was looking at the Chaos Slams version because there is so many times I want to avoid specific blocks. There's so many times I don't want to let my opponent Aries smiles me, things like that. And you want to talk strategy? Uh, we we just saw that he had the 6 under the Earthbreaker. So if we want to talk strategy, rewinding back, realizing where the speed of the Armor of the Wolf would be, and realizing the fact that even if the mid attack is lethal on a partial, this symbol, the order symbol, right, is not going to be partial blocking with a high or low, right? The rising uppercut does not get the response unless it's blocking a high attack to reset the speed. So I think really the correct call was always to do the zone change because we haven't seen a +0 or too many +1 low blocks on the order symbol or in this deck yet. And if our rival had looked at their own deck and checked the 6 under it to completely block, they almost certainly would have won on the backswing. So I think there it was actually the correct call to look at the zones that our rival has in our deck, always change the zone to low, and say not only do you have to have a low block, but it has to be a +1 low block realistically, right?
Yeah, and while you were talking, I did just go ahead and do a straight check of everything. And we were talking about, you remember that started off with a horrifying realization. We discarded a +2 low block, but I just went through the entire deck here, Sam. There is not a +1 low block at all within this deck, main board or sideboard. So you're
And
right.
luckily this is open decklist, right, Bear? This is open
Yeah,
decklist event.
yes, it is.
Hey,
We saw actually the players themselves scrolling through while we were vamping, before they started off their game, and they shuffled up and drew up. But I think this is going to be a different tale already this game because we had Paul Phoenix going first here, but only building 2. Meanwhile, on the other side of the board, build 5 from the Mirio player going second, and we did find Lemillion of the Big 3 as well as short-lived promotion,
but
but we did play an Earthbreaker and we checked it.
Earthbreaker is a stun 4. We're gonna discard an Earthbreaker. Yikes. We do have a stun 4 Earthbreaker, so if this hits us, one of those foundations, almost certainly that Lemillion of the Big 3, is gonna get popped, and we only have a 1 card ready to attempt this block.
You're right, but how about instead
Oh,
of a block, I pay the cost
oh,
off of this runaway? If we checked a 3 on that runaway, Sam, we did fail it, but we didn't.
right?
We actually checked a 6. So instead of this Earthbreaker dealing any damage at all, it is just going to say, I'll take 5 instead, please. And you
Ah,
don't deal any damage. And we're going to stuff the card pool with that Earthbreaker you discarded. So at least when it comes to card pool abilities, we have access to. Double Earthbreaker looks great, but with only 2 foundations, this turn seems completely shut down without having to play a single block at all.
no, 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 no. This is perfect. All we got to do is play a 4 difficulty move that draws a card, and then we get to ready capture the target. We'll get +2 to our damage every time we draw a card. So if we just play a 4 diff that draws like 5 or 6 times during this attack, use the Paul Phoenix enhance, we can deal 23 damage right here with a 4 diff.
We
That's
said
not what's going to
no.
happen though.
We didn't do it. We were checking a 3 anyway, so at least, Alessandro felt where the deck was going to be. We're going to build a couple more foundations, the ones that we didn't have when we went first this game. But that foresight also letting us know what's on top of our deck feels pretty good if you want to keep trying to push here. But the return to moment of normalcy is going to help us at least a little bit survive against high impact cards like the Armor of the Wolf that we've already seen in this matchup. So again, I said it might be very, very good on the other side right now for James, but now you're staring across this reset every single turn. Mirio's reset needs a momentum to do. This is just a foundation.
Yeah, and the biggest question for me right now is this the game where someone's finally going to break serve? Right? Then the 6
Yeah.
hand size aggro matchups of the world, you almost always give a huge benefit to the player going first, but that is a lot of gray for Mirio, which not terrible. Choosing to build turn 2, I promise my new players out there, I promise it's not illegal. You're allowed to just build twice. It's okay.
The best thing that I tell people too, Sam, and we haven't seen it get played at least for its own ability so far this match, but this Mirio deck is playing City Rampage, and I agree with you, Sam. I promise you, Oh, and especially as we horrifying realization into another defensive trick like the another copy of Runaway, building for 2 turns in a row. Your City Rampage deck, whatever it could do on turn 2, I promise it does it better on turn 3 when you've maybe sculpted a little better for more attack cards and more of a powerful aggression. Because especially with how big we're going to make our stage right here, Sam, yes, we didn't get a momentum. Our defensive thing, City Rampage. And I agree with you, Sam. I promise you. Oh, and especially as we horrifying realization into another defensive trick like the another copy of Runaway, building for 2 turns in a row. Your City Rampage deck, whatever it could do on turn 2, I promise it does it better on turn 3 when you've maybe sculpted a little better for more attack cards and more of a powerful aggression. Because especially with how big we're going to make our stage right here, Sam, yes, we didn't get a momentum. Our defensive character ability is not really playable right now. You're gonna basically double the stage size versus your opponent right now. And it's gonna put Alessandro in this scenario where they feel like they must do something to come back, and that typically means playing attacks, which leaves them up to a backswing. And I think we might see that happen exactly this game.
And I love the defense that we have set up. The runaway on the first attack is going to clog the card pool. And then if he wants to play a second attack after that, as long as we're not facing down like the most ungodly stun numbers, I guess he could go like double haymaker on us. But if we have the enhanced stepping that we get to do, hey, runaway plus triple inspiring song for -3 to a check, saying the best you can check is a 3, even if you have a 6 on top, is a great way to shut down early aggression. And despite going first, right, we only have 5 foundations. We only have what equates to, a turn 1 build. So runaway plus triple, I'll call it fake breaker, right? The faker on inspiring song is so strong because you don't have to do anything. You don't have to block the attack to be able to use those effects. So I think it would be a huge mistake here to try and play more than one attack. And you see the 3 check already. I can't imagine Paul is gonna find a way to overcome this runaway that you have to assume is coming in, right?
Yeah, Paul Phoenix fans are definitely sweating after that 3 check happens. Because again, I mean that's how I set it up, right, Sam? Like your opponent's stage is the biggest you've seen this entire match. You thought you both were just going to sling attacks back and forth until somebody finally checked enough 5s, but then Paul feeling like they have to do something in the matchup to come back. It's going to be about aggression, trying to maybe get some of these foundations out of the way by blowing them up if this Earthbreaker connects, but running into another copy of Runaway. I think the -3 to the check is a brilliant idea to really shut down this turn, especially after your opponent checks a 3 on the first move. That sounds devastating if I'm Alessandro. But instead, also, if
Whoa.
Runaway would be good on the first move, it's probably pretty good on the second one. But this half block here, attempting at least as we check a 3, means that we're going to give more options for Alessandro to blow up a selective foundation. But if we let it fail, just take it in full. They can only blow up one of these face downs that we stunned because we didn't even get the bonus discard a card to give us an extra instance of stun 2. We just left this as the base stun 2 as well. So wondering where this turn could go, I think letting that block fail was pretty smart. As it seems it was just the poke here, Sam. We're going to build out a few more foundations so that hopefully Alessandro can do something even better next turn.
Yeah, I get the idea, right? Our rival not discarding a card with Earthbreaker tells us that they're not going to continue to be aggressive. But the
Yep.
runaway clog not only would have saved us one of our face downs, but it would have also made the foundations that rival built a little higher difficulty as well. So maybe keeping the runaway just in case we like hard brick again and we have to play defense again, which we got pretty close to. But you know what the main appeal, the main reason I started looking at Mirio was in today's day and age?
Are you setting me up for it, or do you want me to let you say it? Because here it
No,
is.
it's too late because he just played it. It's Titan Cliff, baby. This card is a slam, and it builds us a 6 check that gives us momentum for our character ability, which is the 6 check. We just check to play it. Everything's coming up Mirio House.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, no copy of City Rampage to be seen, but I think the biggest thing right here is we're going to make a decision of how many of these cards in our hand we want to review and then draw back. Getting rid of these unique foundations that we can't build, even if we wanted to, is very important. Even as we draw 3 new cards, only finding 1 attack card, but I mean, Titan Cliff plus the Schoolyard Smackdown in our hand, plus the Phantom Threat we just got. And you're right, a finally free coming in here into the stage, maybe giving us an extra momentum for an extra little bit of damage push on either the Phantom Threat or something else could be the beginnings of trying to chew through 29. But we are staring across that moment of normalcy. We have to be
We
scary the entire time of this offensive turn.
Fun fact: we're 1 damage pump away from being able to flash a Phantom Threat.
Whoa, I didn't think about that. Okay, hold
We'd have
on.
to be able to change the zone twice to do it though, because we'd have to get the high damage pump from
Oh,
Vermilion
you're right.
and the low, but it is on the table.
Yeah, especially on the table is this pretty nice Spirit Beast uh poo
Ooh,
block.
yeah,
Yeah,
PUU.
we checked a 6 on it as well, even though it has a +3 block modifier. Even though it's just for half, it saves us a little bit of damage, of course, and it builds itself committed, not just clearing itself from the card pool, but gives us an extra bonus foundation that we didn't build right then and there. As the horrifying realization comes in, and
Oh,
finally we see the first copy of City Rampage in the hand. You said one more version of Damage Pump, giving your attack 1/1 as it comes in, kind of
well, we'd have
count.
to. We'd also have to change the zone a second time.
Yeah.
I guess is part of that. So I guess theoretically two, but zone changing counts as one now.
We are counting our stage though, thinking that this isn't enough to chew through 24. Being happy that we got a momentum and a bonus momentum with the half block coming through off of that Titan Cliff. So we're just going to try and sculpt a little bit more. Being careful not to go into deadlock, and I think that's a very fair thing to do. So yeah, we're
Yeah,
gonna yeah, that's it.
I feel like we could have probably tried to force it once we drew the rampage if it wasn't for the moment of normalcy,
Yeah.
right? If that moment of normalcy wasn't hanging out to reset the damage of our big nice phantom threat or something like that. I think with 2 attacks and a city rampage, we could have at least attempted a lethal swing, to deal 24, but it would have cost pretty much all of our resources to do so. And I can't quite tell if that's a schoolyard smackdown or not. I can't tell
I,
which
I
exact attack that is.
I think it is. I think we've actually been holding on to that SmackDown for like 2 turns now.
Yeah.
It was the only attack that we had the last time we decided to build all these foundations. But now this time, with a little bit of extra orange in our hand, and now the City Rampage, now it's about like, okay, I'm at 16, and I'm having to pass back now to Paul. I need enough cards that will keep me alive. So I have this Runaway, and then another foundation to block with before I maybe want to block with the ones that matter. But man, talk about another card that you don't see very often. Another card that can really start stunning down your opponent's board, Barrier Buster, and our opponent is also reading the card. But the thing
Yep.
about Barrier Buster is that if we have a momentum, we can increase the ratings of all keywords on this card by 1. So if we give it an instance of stun 2 with Paul Phoenix first, and yes, it was another clowning around, a, explosive muscle, muscle explosion.
Steel muscle explosion.
Yes. Giving it stun 2 and drawing a new card. Now this powerful 3 stun 1 stun 2 move, as we spin this momentum right here, will become a powerful 4 stun 2 stun 3 move. This is going to stun 5 cards right here and now.
Yeah, barriers are officially illegal. They're getting stunned out now. And it looks like we're doing check hacking with inspiring song, which I don't hate, but I feel like it could be just a little too late. Um this obviously would have felt much better the turn before, but our rival didn't have the ability to be aggressive the turn before, so didn't seem necessary. But we got to use them before we lose them. So using these inspiring songs now does make some sense. But we do have the runaway for additional clog. But Paul Phoenix only has to hit you with like 2 moves.
Yeah, especially when this first one is a stun 5 off the bat. And also, we talked about deadlock, but this one isn't deadlock. This has another enhance that says if your rival has 8 or more foundations, give it an extra bonus 3 speed, which is again not really an axis of stat pump that Paul is really doing in this deck. We're usually just using stun abilities. So now you have this 7 mid for 5, and we could potentially give it an extra stuff because of the sacrifice for the cause or Paul Phoenix himself. It just
Yeah.
makes it scary to block. And it's obviously not for lethal, but this one move committing 5 cards, and if you maybe try to block it, commits even more, is really scary when this is just the beginning of the turn.
Yeah, I almost want to bait the sacrifice for the cause now, just so that he can't discard cards for damage later. You know, if we did the enhance on Mirio, all it's ever going to do is get our rival to destroy one foundation. But when we're already trying to check hack them and probably run away, we might
Yeah.
block with the city rampage here and then try to run away the next card, which I don't hate that plan either.
Yeah.
But uh you know, the sacrifice for the cause means we're pretty much never going to get to use our Mirio enhance. I can't imagine that that one is ever that sacrifice for the cause is ever going to be the one that we commit to pass a check.
Yeah, and it did end up being the runaway there. Just the attack was too fast, and we were too worried about it. But now this is a card in our card pool, as well as now clogging one for Alessandro or on Paul Phoenix. But because we discarded so many cards, our triple final test is coming through. Just
Yeah.
at form speed, I'd like to draw 3 more cards because I discarded 2. But remember, one of those was the steel muscle explosion. So we're just drawing a ton of cards this turn. So what might have only ended up as 1 attack being this barrier buster, we could have drawn into way more gas, and we'll have to see how this turn continues to go because we do have foundations to help pass our checks now that we didn't have earlier, and we didn't check a 3 on this first one. But this
Oh,
foresight is telling me a very different result and story because of the minus checks from Inspiring Song. Maybe that's why we weaved it in.
that's my
Yeah,
assumption is we played this on a 2 and then it looks like we checked a 1. I guess we got a +1 to our check from one of those inspirings.
one,
I thought
two.
we did 3 minus ones, but we
Uh,
only committed 2.
but it was a 0 diff on a 2, and we checked a 0, so we had to commit 2.
Oh, I see. I see. I'm counting as a 1 diff. You're right. You're right. You're right.
So yeah, no, so you're actually 100% right. We had -3 to that check, and we checked a 3. Actually ended up being a 0, but we can take a peek at the top card. It looks like we're gonna leave it there as well. So, or do
Well,
you have
this
to leave it? You have to leave it there.
yeah, Foresight
Yeah.
cannot move it. We don't have the scum bug out. No scumbaggery.
So now we're
So,
doing math because based off of this reaction here, Sam, it must be a 3.
and yet I still think you got the game in your sights. Nope, it
Oh,
was a 5.
it was a 5. So 5, 6, 7, 8 here. Checks a 5, 6, 7. One of them being the capture, and we need an 8th one. That's Spear Beast Poo. So we still have 4 ready foundations as well as Paul Phoenix. And again, another inherent stun 2 move with the combined effect of Paul. It's going to be stun 4 basically. And now with how many foundations are in the stage of Mirio, this is now the downside of you expanding your stage to pass more checks here, Sam. We've also increased the amount of damage that this once per turn ability can provide for Paul, and we're still staring across sacrifice for the cause. And if we don't force it out right now, we might be forcing out if you don't use the enhance of resetting on Mirio right now, you have presided the extra enhance step to where this could easily go way over the top on damage and could easily prevent lethal. But do you just instead maybe use Mirio as a readied resource to pass a block check instead?
I think that's the safe play. I don't know how many 4 checks are in the deck, right? It
Yeah.
comes down to if a 3 and a 4 are the same, then baiting out the sacrifice for the cause, forcing it to be used for the sole purpose of giving my rival one less card to pass their next check with makes sense. If I could potentially check a 4 and need my character to pass this check, because this is only 4 speed still. I
Yeah.
haven't seen a speed pump. There might be a speed pump in the stage with the TMNT card, but I think that's the one where the splinter card I think it reacts to or it enhances on the rival's turn. But so the I think if there's a 4 check in my deck, I have to keep my character up. If there's no 4 check in my deck, I'm trying to use Mirio to destroy your foundation.
Oh, we are gonna press the button here though. I mean that's the thing is again you're staring across from the sacrifice for the cause, and we're pointing it out here. But I mean, remember we have the city rampage. We do have that one mid block, and that card is high enough difficulty to be a legal block versus the blitz ability of the uh
Oh,
Attack
that's
Titan Haymaker.
right.
But yeah, we do have the ancient secrets of ninjutsu here on the stage for Paul Phoenix that we can commit and give this punch, kick, or slam attack +2 speed and +2 damage, which is going to put it in a faster scenario. This is now a 6 speed move, Sam. 7, 8 to block with the
We'll
City
check a six.
Rampage. It's check a 6 or
I'm
die.
believing. I'm fully believing. I'm putting all my belief in finally free on top of the deck, or in the fourth inspiring song on top of the deck. This is all the believers in chat. This is your moment. This is
Check a
your moment
6.
to believe with me.
Check a 6 or die. I've seen Tam lose a game because his opponent checked a 6. I want to maybe see it here. Whether if you're a fan of either Mirio, the old school Undaunted Raid starter deck character, or Paul Phoenix, one of the rising Tekken characters. Oh, sorry, Tim. This is what it comes down to. We show the one mid block, we go for the check,
Oh, you guys didn't believe hard enough in chat. I
and
was
it's
believing. You guys didn't believe.
the absolute
How
disaster
far down? He's
scenario.
gonna go look for that six. Oh, it was far down. Oh, that
Oh,
was
it
a
was
lot.
so
That was
far. Or
gas
that
next turn
that's
though.
also the gas hand
That
next
was
turn.
gas
If
next
we
turn.
just maybe blocked and lived that turn. But that is game 3, the match to Paul Phoenix at this current pace, Sam. With Paul Phoenix winning this round in round 5, with one more round to go, we might see another Paul Phoenix potentially make a top cut in another regional.
And he did it off the ancient secrets of ninjutsu. I don't want to hear anybody's card evaluation ever again. This is not a card anyone has talked about since the preview season. It's unique. It's a 4 check. It only works on kick punches or slams. What is this, Jay Talbane? Like this is absolutely amazing. The margin of victory was literally an enhanced commit on a 2-4, and the rival not having a 6 probably left in their deck. So absolutely amazing stuff. Well played to both players. If we could have both of them win, of course we would choose to do so. But that is basically only an option for our top tables who are IDing these last 2 rounds. We had an ID, I believe, at table 1, and we're going to expect to see some more IDs at table 1 and probably table 2 after this. But we got one more round of action. We're going to try to find a win in. We're going to try to find some players who have to play, because I'm looking through the list and we got some killers out there who are losing in these final rounds. Corey Nelson, who got second place at Nationals, US Nationals from last competitive season, up against Calvin H. Used to be teammates. It looks like Calvin H has shifted over to the trading post from Team MGLA, and Calvin was your winner in Louisville, and he took down Corey. So that was a Zeke Yeager versus a Midoriya on the move. So 2 regional winning decks at table 2. Calvin won 2-1. Jacob Johnson, who we saw lose earlier, was at table 3, and he 2-0'd Ryan DeWolf, who we saw earlier. Tim Keefe continuing on his path of destruction, winning 2-0. Ryan Levine, who we've seen, won 2-0 at table 5. So a lot of really good players. Almost everyone we've seen on stream today has managed to stay in the top 10 tables, it looks like. So very, very competitive stuff. Very close games coming down to the wire here. A lot of 2-0s in like the 5 to 8 bracket, but a lot of really good decks hovering around these top tables.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely said it because as I'm like looking down and like going and looking at all these characters, based off of what I'm currently seeing after the results of what we've seen so far of this match or this round, we could potentially have only one repeat character in top cuts based off of the results if they like keep carrying through, and depending on matchups, of course. But the action is almost over for day 1. We have one round to go, and there are so many heavy hitter names that you just talked about, all in this top 4 tables. 5 tables, 6. They're all over the place, but only 8 players will make it to day 2. And we're going to find out after round 6. It's coming up here with a small break. Don't go anywhere. I'm on the edge of my seat. I hope you are too. We'll see you in a bit.